Hello, dearies and dudes. My name is Snyderman, and I am so excited to teach you. You don't even know. I'm a little late with this one. I wanted to get it out last weekend. Life happened, but here we are, back with more Snyderman Teaches, the series dedicated to historic events, historic people, and their importance to modern society. Today, we are going to be talking about the Vikings, and go! This episode was brought to me by Seriously Persona Gaming. He requested that I do Viking mythology. This was about 2 episodes of Snyderman Teaches ago now. And I didn't really want to limit myself to Viking mythology strictly because the Vikings are so cool. Okay? But if you are looking for blood, if you are looking for guts, if you are looking for gore, you're in the wrong place. If you're looking for epic tales of dragon fighting and all of that, you are also in the wrong place. What we are going to do today is we are going to focus on the facts of the Vikings. We're going to focus on some of the myths about the Vikings, and we're going to bust those myths. Okay? And before I get started, one of the myths that we have to bust is no horned helmets. Aww. The Vikings did not wear horned helmets. Instead, they wore more helmets that looked like this or this. Okay? That is more of your Viking helmet. Now, here's what the Vikings are. They are a group of people called the Norsemen, also known as the Northmen. And they are from the region around Norway, Sweden, Denmark, this region known as Scandinavia, Northern Europe. Okay? And what we need to acknowledge right now, before anything else, because it's going to help us set up some background, is this group of people knew how to build boats. Their boats were bomb. Okay? These guys and gals would basically take entire oak trees and hollow them out. Basically, what the Vikings would do to build a boat is they would cut down trees and then drive wedges into those until the wood split along the grains, and they could use up to 20 trees to make one boat. Whoa. These guys knew how to work with some lumber. Now, they would use a construction style called clinker construction. Basically, that is where you would arrange the wood into perfectly fitting planks, almost like a fan, okay? And the outside would be built first, and then your wooden frame would be built second and slide into that kind of outer shell that you just created. Oftentimes, these boats, they were obviously made of lumber. They were made of some metal fittings. And in order to become watertight, what the Vikings would do is they would coat this vessel with a mixture of either tar-soaked animal fur or tar-soaked wool, tar-soaked moss, anything that would provide security for the inside of this boat. Okay? And it's going to be these ships that are the heart of Viking culture. Because what is true about the Vikings is they were a seafaring people. They knew how to sail. They knew their way around the water. And that's evidenced by the fact that they are the first people to arrive in the Americas. Yes, even before Columbus. There is evidence of Viking fishing villages in what is now Canada. So they were really the first Viking people to show up in the New World. Love you, Leif Erikson. And what we see is This shipbuilding allows the Vikings to create this, a territory of Viking expansion that is very similar to some of the largest empires in the world right around the same time. So, why do we talk about the Byzantine Empire and the Roman Empire and all of these giant empires, but we don't give a lot of love to the Vikings? Why is that? The reason for that is the fact that the Vikings, they did not establish this territory as a unified front. What that map just showed you was really an interconnected territory of independent villages. There was no Viking king. There was no Viking emperor. There was no unified Viking empire to govern all of these individual territories and individual villages because, quite frankly, the Vikings were so far isolated from each other that there was no way a central government could have been established. The villages themselves were so far off from each other that there was no way to govern all of them in one unified body. We are talking an extensive territory from Scandinavia to Canada to as far southeast as Baghdad, where we are finding evidence of Viking villages. There is no way that one government could have controlled all of that. And that leads us into an examination of Viking culture. Okay? History likes to tell you that the Vikings are a bunch of bloodthirsty berserkers that are out for blood and are going to kill everybody. Why is that? It really starts with the story of the first known Viking raid at Lindisfarne, and this is a small island off the coast of England, and this was a general hub for learning at this point. There was a grand library on Lindisfarne, and this is where the Vikings are first recorded as to raiding and basically plundering a local monastery. And based on these accounts, monks are killed, they are thrown into the sea, they are taken as slaves. The Viking people, the Norsemen, they completely wreck the village and the monastery based on this account. So this is where the stereotype or the belief about Vikings being this bloodthirsty people comes from, this account of this raid. Now, this is where we bust our first myth. Boom. Myth 1. The Vikings were bloodthirsty. No, they weren't. No, they weren't. Actually, the Vikings get this reputation, one, because of accounts like the one at Lindisfarne. Okay? The reason that the Vikings have the reputation that they do is because they were written about by their victims. Okay? Much like other people who are written about by their enemies, they're not really painted in a good light. Okay? The Vikings are the Aaron Burr to the English's Alexander Hamilton, or the Vikings are the Philistines to the English's Hebrews. Whenever you have an enemy as the only source of written knowledge about that enemy, we have a negative view as historians of those people. The reality of the Vikings is quite different. Okay? These were a people that were just like any other group. They were interested in farming. They were interested in trade. Okay? Now, that's not saying that raids didn't happen. Obviously, they did. But a majority of the Viking expeditions were done for trading purposes. They were done to build a larger, more epic Viking empire, or more stable economic community for the Viking people. And that actually leads us into the second Viking myth that we're going to bust. The Vikings are an unkept, dirty, brutish people. While the conditions of Scandinavia weren't necessarily ideal for human settlement, meaning that the Vikings would have had to have been a rougher, tougher group of people, in reality, they were just people. Okay? A lot of the rough and tough image that we see, again, comes from the source material that we are forced to work with. And a lot of that wasn't written by Vikings. So the image of the big bushy beards and the bloodthirsty berserkers, not entirely accurate. Instead, in reality, these were probably people that ended up migrating, again, for trade. It all comes down to trade with the Vikings. Okay? So I'm sorry to disappoint you, but the Vikings are not all war and god of thunder and bring destruction to everybody. That wasn't how they were. Now, were there isolated groups that absolutely were emphasized by gaining wealth and pushing for greed? Absolutely. There were certain groups that was the purpose of their expeditions. That was the purpose of their voyages. But that wasn't true for a majority of the Viking people. And in fact, what brings an end to the Viking Age is the bringing in, the ushering in of Christianity to the Viking Empire or the Viking community. Okay, these people were not so brutish that they were ostracized and cast out of Catholicism at the time. In fact, they were kind of embraced, and when the Vikings began adopting this mentality of Christianity, this theology of Christianity, they become basically a part of European civilization. They kind of fade into normalcy within European society during the Middle Ages. So again, the Vikings are really just people, and in fact, that leads us to kind of the end of this video, where we must acknowledge the fact that the Vikings were important pieces into the construction of modern Europe. A lot of the expeditions that people are going to go on later in the 1400s can be brought back to the Vikings. Their knowledge of shipbuilding can be traced back to that. You have this extensive trade network that, again, extended from Baghdad, Iraq, all the way up to Scandinavia, and even crossed the Atlantic over into Canada. So that itself is vastly, vastly important for the development of modern Europe. So that has been the Vikings. It is a little bit shorter, but I apologize for that. Before I let you go, I want to let you know Snyderman Teaches isn't going to be gone for long. I have a little mini series that I'm working on that is going to be connected to Thankmas. If you did not see the coffee corner and me talking about Thankmas, go check out that video right now. But with that, leave this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're not already. Leave me a comment down below. And what do you want to see me cover on the next official episode of Snyderman Teaches after the Thankmas mini-series is up? Have a great day. Follow me on social media. Love you guys. We'll see ya.